Does anyone still remember this post when it comes to Onyx? Nothing I say is financial advice, but remember quite a while back ago, Onyx made a post talking about how when it comes to Onyx AI, supporting the hypothetical deployment of tokens on the XCN layer 3, but also it supports BNB Chain, Ethereum, and Base. Why do I find this pretty cool when it comes to Onyx AI? Because when I take a look at it, what's massive? What's the common thing that I see within this post? BNB Chain's massive, Ethereum, and as well as Base, which is Coinbase's layer 2. What's not massive? Something like Onyx, right? It's pretty okay in terms of market cap. We've seen a slight recovery as of late, but it's not a massive project in the grand scheme of things. So if it supports, in this case, right, we take a look at a BNB Chain, Ethereum, and Base when it comes to, this Onyx AI thing that I mentioned before, isn't that pretty cool? Because, again, BNB Chain is just so popular, right? Let alone Ethereum, and also on top of that, we take a look at Base, which is Coinbase's layer 2. So what I like about Onyx is that they're at least kind of expanding their horizons, and I think seeing this post kind of reminded me of how they don't have this mindset where they're just like, oh yeah, we're the best and all this. No, they don't have that mindset, I feel like, to me at least. It feels like they understand that they're not going to be the biggest project out there, so why not have other aspects too of, like, let's say, being able to support some other projects out there that are just always going to be more massive than this. That's my perspective. They're not just kind of stuck in their ways. That's the way to take a look at it. And I do like that, right? Because what's wrong with support? What's wrong with help, right? XCN, 25 cents. It's around 52 times away right now. Like, remember when it was like around 57 and almost like 60 actually? It's almost 60 times away not too long ago. But we're starting to see a slight recovery when it comes to altcoins. We're seeing some memes out there do something, some smaller projects out there. However, really, in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing remotely close to where like XCN was even just months ago, right? Or should I say even last year in 2025. The reason why I haven't necessarily given up when it comes to Onyx is because it represents to me something that I haven't really been able to kind of see within its space in terms of a project that has a smaller market cap than something like Stellar, something like XDC, but actually also be focused on that space. There's a couple, like for instance, I see Zebic, which I think is the closest main competitor when it comes to Onyx. I see XPR and Swiftcoin, right? But that's like not that many. You know what I mean? If I mention like 30, then that's a different case. But yeah, I just don't see it in this case. So if, let's say, there was attention for alternatives beyond like the top 3 projects within the global trade finance space, in theory, right? If there's a lot of attention for a space and there's just not that many options to begin with, those few options aren't going to see as much, of that attention dispersed in too many places just because there's just not that many options to begin with. The attention is more directed across a few amount of projects, right? XCN, with a market cap of around $1 billion, we're talking about around a year ago. Like that right there, first of all, I don't think it was an altcoin season. And was that a small glimpse? Who knows? But it was able to do that just a year ago, basically, approximately. And with no altcoin season. So what would happen if there was an actual quote-unquote altcoin season? This is my mindset. We'll have to wait and see, though. But also, my perspective is this. People like to tell me, oh, there are so many competitors when it comes to Onyx right now. They say at 25 cents, considering the current circulating supply, market cap at around 9 billion. Like, how? Because they say there's so many competitors, quote-unquote. But really? I mean, the thing is, I can't name over 10 compelling options for the space of global trade and finance. I just really can't within this space. Why? Because I don't think that many actually exist in my mind, in terms of the ones I find compelling. Like, again, Stellar's number 2, XDC's number 3, number 4, I would say Zebic as of right now, number 5 is Onyx, number 6, or number 7. It's like a toss-up between XPR and Swiftcoin, but that's like 7 total, right? You know what I mean? If I consider also like the number 1 player within the space, like just in the grand scheme of things that are pretty compelling to me. How is that many competitors? Others, niches out there, we're talking about 20, 30, 40 easily in terms of competitors. I just don't really see it here. However, At 25 cents, considering current circulating supply market cap around 9 billion, right? A year ago, approximately, the market cap was $1 billion. So it wasn't even over 10 times lower than that. And that was without altcoin season, right? And also, on top of that, back then, around a year ago, no testnet when it comes to their layer 1 blockchain. Also, on top of that, when it comes to Onyx AI, was it even really talked about? You know what I mean? In a lot of people's perspective, for instance, a lot of my friends, that didn't even exist in their mind, right? They didn't even think about that. So the thing is this, now that Onyx is fundamentally better, like, was that a glimpse? I don't know, right? It wouldn't surprise me though, but I'm just saying. Now that there is more, I think, features when it comes to the project, now that when it comes to Onyx, that at least this year they're looking to do the mainnet of their layer 1 blockchain, I would arguably say it's fundamentally, to me, better than before. So what would happen if there was an altcoin season? You know, this is kind of the mindset that I have. It wouldn't surprise me if something maybe kind of hypothetically did happen in a make-believe scenario, but we'll see. However, Onyx, just as a project in and of itself, people like to say, well, take a look at Stellar, aspects of ISO 20022. Take a look at Civic, has an aspect of that. Take a look at XDC. Well, you have to consider this. Chain, right? Not too long ago, they rebranded to Onyx. But then if we take a look at Chain currently just as an entity, not too long ago, it fully upgraded to ISO 20022. And then Chain is part of the Onyx ecosystem. So if I take a look at it, you know, Stellar, XDC, Civic, they have aspects of ISO 20022. But then I take a look at something like Chain, which has an aspect of that. You know what I mean? So when people like to tell me, oh, Onyx can't really compete within this space, well, I can't speak on anyone's behalf, but I just don't know why I wouldn't be able to compete within this space just because of the features that I do see and also kind of the improvements they've made along the way. And just also Chain overall, right? But yeah, I just wanted to talk about this post because it kind of reminded me of a project that doesn't really seem to be kind of stuck in this mindset where they want to be the best alone, right? It seems like they don't mind like expanding their horizons. I guess that's the way to take a look at it. However, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, and I hope you all have a very nice day. It's only the captain, and if there's going to be more updates when it comes to Onyx, I'm going to be talking about it. However, again, I hope you all have a very nice day. It's only the captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.